never heard of comes a film you've seen a million times before.
Anything is on Christmas! Where am I going? I haven't packed.
Snowy Heights.
That's my hometown where I grew up.
So pour yourself a wholesome mug of hot cocoa.
I'm here!
Or maybe something a little stronger.
Today we welcome to the Screen One interview Jake Horowitz, director of the new Christmas movie Cup of Cheer, which is being released in the UK digitally on the 7th of December. So first off, hello and welcome, Jake. And can you tell us a little bit about what Cup of Cheer is about?
Oh my God, it's not really about anything, actually. It's Cup of Cheer is a parody of Christmas movies that actually aren't about anything. That's kind of true. It follows a reporter who blah 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 does something, and then something happens with a small town, and there's a guy who owns a hot cocoa shop, and a bunch of other things happen, and then they have to save Christmas, of course, because that's a lot of every single cheesy Christmas movie, and we wanted our parody of those movies to have the exact same plot, really.
Excellent. So what led you to creating Cup of Cheer? I mean, did someone force you to watch these old style Christmas cheesy movies and this is a rebuttal, or was it just something you felt needed doing?
Kind of both. I'm from Canada, and my writing and producing partner Andy is from London, where I have also lived for a while, and so then we both now live in Toronto, and that's where almost every Christmas movie is filmed up in Canada. So the whole industry there is sort of based around, trying to get into working on one of these cheesy Christmas movies, and that did not sound fun for me at all. So, of course, everybody, after my first feature was a success, everybody was saying, oh, you should meet with so-and-so, because then, if you're lucky, you might be able to write one of these cheesy Christmas movies. And that was the exact opposite of what I wanted to do. So I decided to do the exact opposite and make a movie so that they would never hire me on any of those movies.
Yeah, I think you will have achieved that.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be getting a call from them.
Yeah. So did all the jokes and gags come from the scripts, or was it some of it spur of the moment on the set stuff, or was it ad-libbed, or how did some of the stuff come together? Because some of it's absolutely outrageous, and I can't imagine you just writing that and go, let's do that.
I don't know. I'm pretty deranged. A lot of it, almost all of it, as the actors will tell you, was as scripted. Andy and I were trading scenes back and forth when we were writing it. We were sitting in the same room over Christmas, and we were just really trying to get a reaction out of each other and make each other laugh. I think that's why some of it is so crazy. And like, well, that will never make it in. And then it made us laugh, so it made it in. On the other hand, there is a lot of stuff that just because our actors are so funny and they all share the same sense of humor as us, there are some little things that we came up with on the set. A lot of the weirder looks and funnier like sight gags, and some of the disgusting stuff just came from me wanting to push them out of their comfort zone and force them to drink something really gross or eat something really gross. So a lot of those things aren't scripted, and they come about just from wanting to get a funny reaction on set that's actually genuine, because so many of the jokes that were written in ahead of time, everybody knows about them, and then they're not as funny in the moment to the actors, at least. So it's a good mix of wanting the actors to have a good time and wanting the audience eventually to have a good time.
So that kind of follows on to my next question. So, I mean, some of this is like, spit your drink out funny when you're watching it. So,
Thank you.
So for you guys making it, it must be incredibly hard to remain in role. So how do you all keep in sort of, dare I use the word sensible while, making the film with all the lunacy going on around you? How do you keep that straight?
Well, a lot of the time we didn't. There was sometimes, the end of a very long day when we were all just losing it at the silliest thing. Certainly when the sheriff takes his hat off and there's a collar hat underneath. I think that the actors forgot that that part was in the script. And so they're so tired and, been standing outside and it's minus 35 every day in the snow in Canada. And at a certain point, you just lose it. And so like that scene, every time he took his hat off, it was like 45 minutes of laughter. But then other times, you're saying the actors are so good and it's such a, it's such a challenging role for them to pull off, which is why I think they're so amazing at doing it. Because they are saying these ridiculous things and they're having to commit to it and say it with a straight face. And that was the main thing that we looked for when casting them, was just somebody who could say the stupidest, most ridiculous thing and that they could say it and commit to it and that it would be believable.
Because that was something I was also going to ask about the casting process. How do you cast people for these kind of movies? Is there a very specific set process of we've got to see where their sense of humor is, or we want an actor who can act but can also carry comedy? What's the process there?
Yeah, there's so many different elements to it, honestly. Like, these guys are, they have to sort of feel like they could be at home in a genuine cheesy Christmas movie, which was always our main rule, was that if you were watching this and not really paying attention to the words, it should seem like it's a real movie that would be on Channel 5, one of those really cheesy Christmas movies. But the fact is that the actors are so much better than that. They're delivering the same lines almost that they would be delivering in the real movie. So we really wanted to find people that were believably part of that universe, but that were also funny, had the same sense of humor. A lot of the time, Storm, who's our lead, is fantastic, but she didn't have a background in comedy. And she's so funny personally, she has the exact same sense of humor as us, but she came from a dramatic acting background, which I think really helped because she's delivering the lines very earnestly, which really helps. Alex, who plays Chris in the movie, he had a little bit of a comedic background in terms of doing sketch comedy and stuff like that. So that helped with his character. I think it was a good mix of trying to make sure that everybody came together. So once we found Storm, we found Alexander from Her with the chemistry read, and we had a huge pool of actors reading for it because it's such a, it's the first spoof movie that's actually funny in a decade or more. And so everybody sort of knew about it and everybody wanted to audition for it. And so we were very lucky. Tons of talented people that wanted to be a part of it.
That's great. So, was there any stuff in that you would have loved to have gone into the movie, but it just didn't make it in? Or is are there deleted scenes that we should see? Or
there's some deleted scenes that I would love to release online one day. There's a DVD with a few bloopers and deleted scenes and stuff like that. Yeah, there's definitely, the first cut of the movie was 2.5 hours, which there for it to be, except that there's little things that I find funny, like when they go on and on and on, or when they're, a lot of the time I never called cut at the end of a scene because it's funny to watch the actors just standing around not knowing why I'm not calling cut, and they would have funny reactions to that. So there's a lot of awkward stuff that would be funny, but probably are really indulgent. The main thing that made it in right until the very end, it was the last thing that we cut, was my ex, right before he dies, when he comes into the hall, when he comes into the Christmas Eve tradition at the end.
Yeah.
He somebody with a baby walks by him and he says, "Oh, what an adorable baby." And he picks up the baby and throws the baby across the room. And it's like very ridiculous and very over the top. And I think ultimately we decided there was too many children being harmed in the movie. So we didn't include it. But the idea was, that he does like the ultimate worst thing so that when he's killed by the heroes, spoiler alert, I guess, that it just does, that it's all very, ridiculous.
Which I think you may have answered this, but yeah, was there anything when you were actually doing it? Did you actually think to yourself, apart from the baby, this is actually too far. We can't go this far. Was there? Well,
it was the baby. We were never going to film the baby thing. And then once we got into the room and had 100 background performers and everybody packed into that room, and none of them were actors. It was all just real people from the small town that we were filming in that really just wanted to be a part of it. And so we kind of explained it to them, and we're like, guys, we're gonna try this scene where we throw the baby, but don't worry, it's a fake baby, and here's why we're doing it. And then when we did it, everyone was just like, yeah, cool. Like no one had a problem. And so because of that, we thought, well, maybe that's not as bad as we thought. Yeah, there was a few times where we thought something was too far, and then when it came on set, nobody ever pushed back against it.
Which is probably quite dangerous because
for sure. I don't know if people just trusted us too much or what.
or they just went, oh, it's just another day on set. Yeah. So I suppose a question to ask you would be, do you actually have a favorite Christmas movie? Or
I've been asked that a few times now, and my answer is always Elf, and then every time I'm like, is it? Because there's so many Christmas movies that I really like. Elf and Home Alone and the original Grinch, and the movies that I grew up watching. I think that the key to a good Christmas movie is not how great it is, but it just how nostalgic it is. Makes you feel. So those are my favorites. Not any of the cheesy Christmas ones, really.
What was your source material for these cheesy movies? I need to know what to avoid.
I don't know. They all have the exact same title. They're all the same. And then some interesting, and they're meant to be disposable because they're on TV and there's a new one every day. And so I don't think they're meant to stick with you, which is certainly what we want a Cup of Cheer to do.
Something on. Yeah. So what's next for you? And will you be working with the cast again, or what's going on?
Yeah. We're trying to come up with some stuff for the cast. We're trying to do something very similar to Cup of Cheer because that was a big swing. Like I said, they don't really make spook movies anymore, and so we consciously wanted to bring that back and make a really good one. And so I would love to do something similar tonally. My first film is called All About Who You Know, and that was more of a traditional like coming of age indie rom. Still a bit funny, but it wasn't like Cup of Cheer. And so I'd love to stick with that Cup of Cheer style as long as people don't get sick of it. Cup of Cheer 2, which would be called Another Cup of Cheer, is something that we're actively writing and we really want to make. And a few other things that a TV show, but nothing that I've announced yet because there's a lot of projects that I'd be really to do, and certainly it's hard to film any of them right now.
Yes, it's So Cup of Cheer was made before the pandemic, was it?
Yeah, just about a week before lockdown.
Wow.
When we finished, and we had all those people and packed into all those rooms, and thankfully everybody was okay. But if we were a week later or something, we probably never would have got back up and filming.
Wow. So good timing then.
Yeah, very lucky.
Well, that's perfect. Thank you very much for your time. Congratulations on Cup of Cheer. The review is on Screen One if people want to read it, and then go watch the film. Again, it's available digitally on December the 7th in the UK. Thank you very much, Jake, for your time. And everybody enjoy Cup of Cheer.
Thank you, Matt. Really good talking to you.
Thank you.
Most importantly, we learned that small towns are way better than big cities.
That's what Christmas is all about.